Happy Hour, which actually responds to a question that I've heard many times on Instagram, here on YouTube, on Facebook, which is what podcasts are great for educators to be listening to. Podcasts are like the wave of the future. I listen actually to quite a few educational podcasts. I listen to entertainment podcasts. There's one about the Bravo like Real Housewives franchise, and it's called Watch What Crappens, and it is completely inappropriate to be listening to with your children around if you're a teacher mom like me or teacher dad, but it is flippin' hilarious. So if you're cleaning the house and you can pop in some earbuds, it's a really good one. That's aside from the point. That is a little bit steering away from the point that we're talking about today, because today we are talking about the top 3 podcasts for educators that I listen to that I think will really help you with your practice, with your teaching style, and just with like connecting with the teaching community. So my first podcast suggestion is called Teach Me, Teacher podcast. It is a podcast by a friend of mine, Jacob Chastain, and this is a little bit of a like shameless plug because I actually had a conversation with him not too long ago where I'm going to be featured on his podcast. But beside that, I have been a longtime listener of his podcast. He has some amazing people in the educational world come on, he interviews them. Let me just tell you, the way that Jacob frames questions and like the questions that he comes up with, he's like a professional interviewer. When I was talking to him and we were just like talking over Google Hangouts, recording the episode of his podcast, the questions that he was asking were just so poignant and fantastic, and they leave room for some great insight, and he has amazing experience to share, and he's just fun to listen to. He's got one of those like great voices that you just feel like you're sitting down and you're listening to a friend catch up with another friend, and it's just in your ears. That's one that I actually like to listen to in the car with my kids around because I like them being able to hear professional educators like their mom and dad, because my husband and I are both teachers, and my own kids can hear people talking about education outside of a classroom and talking about the philosophies behind education and the trends in education, and it's just a really cool podcast. And I have 3 different episodes of Teach Me Teacher podcast that are my personal favorites and that you should check out. The first are episodes number 59 and 60, where Jacob interviews the phenomenal, energetic, and inspiring Mr. D himself, Joe Dombrowski. They're entitled The Revolution in Teaching, and he talks about just like, they talk about different philosophies and the way that teaching is changing. They talk about how things like this, YouTube, how different social media platforms have really changed the game for a lot of educators, and they've created these different avenues for professional development. Obviously, I'm into that. If you're watching this, probably so are you. And then the other episode that I would take a look at is number 42, and it's called The Power of Community. And Jacob interviews Todd Neslony, and their conversation is all about community, yes, in a classroom, but especially community in the education world itself and connecting with other like-minded educators. It's a really good one, so you should go and check that one out. The second podcast that I want to share with you guys that I really like listening to is called Cult of Pedagogy. Cult of Pedagogy is a whole world that's created by an educator, former classroom teacher, Jennifer Gonzalez. She has an amazing blog. If you've not checked out Cult of Pedagogy blog, go there. Then start listening to her podcast. The reason why I like Cult of Pedagogy so much, and what I think that Jennifer really like brings to the table, is that she has a good mix of episodes, some that are about just like the teacher's soul and teaching philosophy and what it is to be an educator and that calling that we have, and others that are really actionable and like amazing strategies that you can employ in your classroom that are really usable tips, practical. You can actually use these things. Can I sell it anymore? My 2 favorite episodes from Cult of Pedagogy are episode number 100, which is one of those philosophical, like feel-good sorts of things, and it is called Lessons in Personhood. So check that one out for sure. And then the other favorite episode that I have right now is episode number 109, which is called Get Students Talking with Ongoing Conversations. And I used this episode and the blog post that went along with it from her website very directly in finding some different discussion like techniques and strategies for getting my students talking in class, both in a formal way and in an informal, just conversation sort of a thing. Excellent, excellent episodes. Check them out right now if you have the time. The third podcast that I think educators should be listening to is actually not a teacher podcast. It is not an educational podcast. It is a podcast from the NPR world of programming, and it is called Pop Culture Happy Hour. I love Pop Culture Happy Hour with the host Linda Holmes, and she has a whole panel of experts in pop culture, in different forms of media, and it has been a great way. Listening to this podcast has connected me with different books, different movies, different TV and music and podcasts, and different sorts of things that actually really enrich my teaching practice. They bring in different ideas that I would not have the time to read these books, to watch all of these movies, to see all of these television shows, and read all of these news articles, because I just don't have that much time in the day. I'm a full-time teacher and I'm a mom of two, and I just can't watch and intake all of the things that I want. Pop Culture Happy Hour kind of like breaks things down, and it gives me the quick and dirty versions of a lot of these things, and it gives me really intelligent perspectives on different areas of pop culture, so that then I get these great ideas that I can use in my classroom with my students. My favorite episodes of Pop Culture Happy Hour are always when they have like a year in review, so you can probably find one right now since it's the beginning of the year, all about like their 2018 favorites and going into the new year, or things they're looking forward to in 2019. My absolute favorite is every spring around the Oscars, they do an Oscars omnibus, and they look at different Academy Award nominees, and they'll talk about those films, and they'll talk about all of that good stuff. They also do the same sort of thing with like the Golden Globes. So if you want like a review of films or TV that you haven't been able to see yet, check that out. Like I said, you'll get a really intelligent perspective on these things. So there you have it. Those are the 3 podcasts that I would highly recommend. Obviously there are more than that, but those are my top 3 podcasts for educators to listen to if you are looking for some sort of an enrichment or ideas, or you're just kind of like needing something new to listen to. Give those ones a try. I will link all of the episodes that I mentioned down below in the description box for this video. Please share your favorite podcasts for educators to listen to in the comments down below, so that we can share the wealth and work smarter, not harder. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Subscribe if you have not already done so, and I will see you